I'm Kayla Simmons, 35, a health app designer from Austin, Texas, who built a tracking system that's about to shake up the wellness world. My family always saw me as the odd one out, especially my sister, at our family dinner. She sneered right in my face. A loser doesn't deserve to sit with the family. My mom shoved me into my room and slammed the door behind me. I stayed silent, my heart pounding. But I didn't beg or fight back. Instead, I walked out without a word. The next day, when that $100 million deal hit the news, the surprise I brought turned their world upside down. They came crawling. But what I did next made sure they'd never forget. Before I dive into how my family went from shoving me aside to camping out in my lobby, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and smash that subscribe button if you've ever been labeled a loser by the people who should have your back. Growing up in the Simmons family in Austin meant living up to impossibly high standards. I was the middle child, stuck between two siblings who seemed built for the kind of success my parents valued. My father, Gregory Simmons, ran a successful cosmetic surgery practice, helping wealthy clients chase perfection in a city where image mattered as much as the scorching summer heat. My mother, Lori Simmons, taught marketing at the university, shaping courses on branding that influenced everything from local startups to big oil companies. My older sister, Angela Simmons, followed her lead, landing a high-paying job managing ad campaigns for major Texas brands, turning concepts into viral hits. My younger brother, Cody Simmons, dove into stock brokerage, turning quick trades in energy stocks into serious money before he hit 25. Then there was me, Kayla Simmons, the one more interested in tinkering with early computer programs than fitting into their world of polished resumes and networking events at downtown mixers. Family gatherings turned into showcases of their achievements. At our weekly dinners in the suburban home with its wide porch and manicured lawn, Angela would boast about her latest campaign win, perhaps a spot for a popular beer brand during football season. Lori would beam, saying how it reminded her of her own breakthroughs in teaching viral marketing strategies. Cody's stock tips always drew nods from Gregory, who praised his sharp instincts for spotting trends in the volatile Texas economy. But when I tried sharing my ideas for health apps that could track wellness data, like monitoring daily steps or heart rates in real time, the room went quiet. Angela would cut in, comparing me directly to Cody. Why can't you be more like him, focusing on real money instead of these gadget dreams that won't pay the bills? Lori would compliment Angela's drive or Cody's ambition, but stay silent on mine, her eyes avoiding me as if my words didn't register. Gregory would lean back and ask, "When are you going to wake up and pick something practical? Like the paths your siblings chose?" It stung every time, making me feel like an outsider in my own home, retreating to my room after meals to escape the judgment. Their dismissal only grew as I spent hours coding instead of studying for tests that fit their mold. My grades were decent, but next to Angela's perfect scores from her business classes and Cody's early internships at local firms, they looked like failures. I'd skip social events, like high school football games or family barbecues, to build prototypes for apps that could monitor fitness trends, dreaming of how they might help people in a state where outdoor life was big, but health issues like obesity were rising fast. The constant questions chipped away at me, turning family time into a reminder that I didn't measure up, leaving me to eat alone sometimes just to avoid the tension. The turning point came during my sophomore year at the University of Texas. While Angela had gone to a top business school and Cody was already interning on Wall Street through connections, my computer science major felt like a downgrade to them. I wanted to drop out and launch my health app company, using tech to make wellness accessible in everyday life. When I mentioned it at dinner, Gregory set down his fork, saying it was reckless without credentials in a competitive job market. Lori suggested finishing the degree first before playing with ideas that might not pan out. But Angela's words hit hardest. This is just your immaturity showing again. It's not a plan, it's a fantasy that could leave you broke. Only my grandmother, Dorothy Simmons, my mother's mother, offered support. A self-made woman who'd built a small boutique from nothing in the Austin suburbs. She pulled me aside after the meal. "They don't get dreamers like us," she whispered, handing me a check for $5,000. "Go create something real." She passed 3 months later, never seeing what her faith would spark. I left school the next week, moved into a cramped apartment downtown with roommates, and used her money for basic equipment. My parents limited contact to brief calls about practical matters. Cody treated my choice like an embarrassment he avoided mentioning to friends. Angela sent articles on failed startups and job listings for basic tech support roles, claiming she was helping with backups in case things went south. The exclusion deepened at family events. I'd get seated away from the main conversation. My updates dismissed as hobbies that wouldn't last. But their rejection fueled me. As I packed my things, Christina Hayes, my best friend from college, stopped by. "You're going to prove them all wrong," she said, hugging me tight. Her words stuck as I stepped into the unknown. Have you ever felt like the odd one out in your own family? I'd love to hear your story. The first few years after leaving school were grueling. Austin's startup scene was buzzing, but for me, it meant scraping by on minimum wage jobs while chasing my app vision. I took shifts as a waitress at a local diner, rushing tables during lunch rushes to cover rent and basic supplies. The tips barely covered groceries. So I bounced between friends' couches, carrying my laptop and a duffel bag of clothes from one spare room to another. Mornings were for freelance gigs fixing simple websites for small businesses, afternoons for coding my health app prototypes, and nights for crashing exhausted on whatever bed was available. The constant hustle left me drained, choosing between a hot meal or cloud storage fees for my data tests. Angela's mockery didn't let up. One evening, after a particularly bad shift where a customer stiffed me on a tip, I checked my email to find a message from her. She'd attached an article about a failed health tech startup in Dallas, with a note, "Thought this might ring a bell for your little experiment. Don't end up like them." The words cut deep, reminding me of the family's doubt. But I didn't reply. Instead, I vented to Christina over coffee the next day. She listened without judgment, then leaned in. "They're wrong about you. Keep pushing, this app could change lives." Her encouragement pulled me back from the edge, reminding me why I'd started. Things shifted when I met Kyle Chen. During a slow shift at the diner, he noticed me sketching app interfaces on napkins between orders. He asked about it, and I explained my concept for tracking mental health metrics through simple user inputs. His eyes lit up. He'd just sold his own web service company and was hunting for fresh ideas. We talked for an hour after my shift ended, and 2 weeks later, he became my partner, investing $70,000 to register the business and secure initial patents. It was enough to get a tiny shared office space in downtown Austin. Our first app, Health Track, launched with high hopes but crashed hard. Technical bugs piled up, and we underestimated the strict EPA regulations for health data in Texas. Clients backed out after early trials showed compliance issues, burning through our capital in 18 months. Kyle stayed steady. "This is just one setback. We learned what not to do." We pivoted to Vital App, narrowing focus on AI-driven wellness monitoring for everyday users. Funding remained the biggest hurdle. We rented desk space in a co-working spot only 3 days a week, using public libraries the rest of the time for free Wi-Fi. Pitch after pitch to venture capitalists ended in polite rejections. They called our team too small, our experience limited, our goals too ambitious for the conservative Texas market. After 37 failed meetings, our savings dwindled, and Kyle considered remortgaging his condo. We gave ourselves one last month before folding. That's when Riley Park changed everything. A VC partner specializing in health innovations. She attended our final pitch and asked sharp questions about scalability. Unlike others, she saw the potential. You're solving tomorrow's wellness problems today. She invested $1.5 million for 15% equity. It covered real office space, our first hires, and actual salaries. For the first time. The dream felt tangible. If you were in our shoes, would you have kept pitching after 37 rejections? The 2010s brought our company into its own. With Riley's investment, we expanded VitalApp from a basic prototype to a robust platform that integrated user data with AI insights for personalized health recommendations. We hired Diego Ramirez as our lead engineer, a coding whiz who could debug complex algorithms faster than anyone I'd met. Mariah Jenkins joined for marketing, leveraging her connections in Texas healthcare to pitch our app to clinics. Our first clients were small hospitals in Austin, using VitalApp to monitor patient recovery remotely after surgeries. The implementation wasn't flawless. Early users reported minor glitches in data syncing, but it complied with HIPAA standards. Building trust in a state where privacy laws were strictly enforced. Word of our success spread. A TechCrunch article highlighted VitalApp as a game-changer for affordable wellness tracking, calling it the future of preventive care in America's heartland. The piece detailed how our app reduced hospital readmissions by analyzing daily metrics like sleep patterns and activity levels. It caught the eye of organizers at CES Health, who invited me to speak on a panel about innovative tech in medicine. I prepared relentlessly, outlining how VitalApp could bridge gaps in rural Texas healthcare, where access to specialists was limited. Family tensions simmered beneath the progress. During a rare visit home to the suburbs, Angela spotted the TechCrunch link I'd shared in a group chat. She texted back, "Cute article, but is this sustainable or just a flash in the pan?" Her doubt echoed the old patterns, minimizing my work as temporary luck. Cody chimed in with a thumbs-up emoji, but no real comment. Lori called later, asking if I needed help with real branding from her university contacts. The conversation left me fuming, questioning why their approval still mattered. Christina noticed my frustration over lunch downtown. "They're stuck in their world. Your app is changing lives. Stay focused on that." The big break came through negotiations with a major healthcare provider, similar to those dominating Texas markets. They wanted to integrate VitalApp into their patient portal system, offering statewide access to our features. The deal's value climbed to $100 million, including licensing and ongoing support. I worked late nights in our expanded office, refining the app's scalability to handle thousands of users without lag. The pressure mounted as deadlines loomed, but it fueled a growing confidence I was building something that stood on its own merit. By the end of the decade, VitalApp had 27 clients, from community clinics to larger medical groups across Texas. The CES invitation led to more partnerships, positioning us for the final push in talks with the healthcare giant. For the first time, I felt untethered from my family's expectations, ready to step into whatever came next. What would motivate you more, proving yourself to doubters or focusing only on the people you help? A call to mom shifted everything. It was early 2025, and with VitalApp on the verge of a major deal, I wanted to reconnect at a family dinner in our suburban Austin home. I dialed her number, heart racing, hoping to share my progress. "Can I join the family dinner this weekend?" I asked. Mom hesitated, her voice cautious. Angela might not take kindly to that, but sure. "Come." Her tone hinted at trouble, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe this time they'd see my work differently. The dinner was a disaster. We sat around the oak table, the air thick with tension as I mentioned VitalApp's recent traction with clinics. Angela leaned forward, her eyes sharp, and sneered, "A loser doesn't deserve to sit with the family." Her words landed like a slap, echoing the rejection I'd fought for years. Cody smirked, adding, "Maybe try a real job first." Dad nodded, muttering about stable careers. Mom stood abruptly, grabbed my arm, and shoved me toward my old bedroom, slamming the door. "Don't ruin the evening!" She snapped through the wood. The betrayal stung worse than ever, Mom, who'd once been neutral, now siding with Angela's venom. My chest tightened, anger mixing with hurt, but I held my tongue. I grabbed my bag and walked out, the front door clicking shut behind me, back at my downtown apartment. I stared out the window, watching neighbors share meals under warm porch lights. The loneliness hit hard, but I refused to crumble. Christina texted, inviting me to her place for dinner, but I declined. I need to focus on work. Alone at my kitchen table, I opened my laptop, diving into final tweaks for Vital App's scalability. The app needed to handle millions of users for the healthcare deal, and every line of code felt like a chance to prove them wrong. Late that night, my phone buzzed with a message from Sophia Liu, the Chief Innovation Officer at the healthcare company. "We're concerned about the app's capacity for our user volume," she wrote. "Can you address this ASAP?" My pulse quickened. This was a make-or-break moment. I spent hours adjusting data processing protocols, ensuring seamless integration with their patient systems while meeting strict privacy standards. The work consumed me, pushing aside the pain of the dinner. As dawn broke, I sent the updated specs, my fingers trembling with exhaustion and resolve. Sitting back, I looked at the empty coffee cups scattered around. The family's words echoed loser. Not deserving, but they fueled a fire inside me. They'd regret underestimating me. And soon. The deal was so close. And I wasn't letting their doubts stop me now. Work consumed the night. As I sat alone in my Austin apartment, my phone lit up with an urgent call from Sophia Liu, the innovation chief at the healthcare company. "Kayla, we need the app to scale for millions without crashing our systems," she said, her voice sharp with concern. I dove into the code, tweaking data distribution to handle massive user loads while keeping patient privacy intact. Hours blurred as I optimized integration with their electronic health records, ensuring every byte met compliance standards. My eyes burned. But the stakes kept me sharp. This was the final hurdle for the deal. Around midnight, Riley called, her tone bright despite the hour. "Their team's back in the office reviewing your updates. They're impressed with your speed." Her words sparked a flicker of hope, pushing me to double-check every line. By 2 a.m., I sent the revised specs, my hands steady despite the exhaustion. At 4 a.m., Sophia's video call came through, her face calm against the backdrop of her corporate office. "The scalability solution is brilliant," she said. "We're ready to sign for $100 million, including licensing and support." I froze, the weight of years lifting off my shoulders. Tears welled up not from pain, but from the vindication of proving my vision. Christina, who'd come over to keep me company, hugged me tightly as we laughed, the room filled with relief. The next morning, my TV blared with CNBC's breaking news. Austin startup Vital App secures $100 million deal with major healthcare provider, revolutionizing wellness tracking in Texas. The anchor's words hit before I'd even processed the early announcement. My phone exploded with messages, colleagues, old classmates, even local reporters. Then came Mom's call. "Kayla, you're on the news," she said, her voice trembling. "Is this deal really worth $100 million? I confirmed, keeping my tone flat. Angela texted next. "Big congrats. Let's talk soon. Misunderstood you before?" Cody followed, his message blunt. "Got any room for investors now?" Their sudden interest didn't surprise me, but it left me cold, detached from the family who dismissed me. I stared at the screen, their messages unanswered. The victory was mine, not theirs, and I wasn't letting them claim it. The news shifted the ground beneath me. By late afternoon, my family showed up unannounced at our downtown Austin office. I spotted them through the glass doors, Mom pacing nervously, Angela checking her phone, Cody standing stiffly, Dad scanning the modern space with its sleek desks and city view. I walked in, steeling myself for their words, without preamble. I pulled up the signed $100 million contract on the conference room screen. "Here's the surprise from the loser you wouldn't let sit with you," I said, my voice steady. Their faces froze, eyes locked on the glowing numbers. Angela broke the silence first. "Kayla, I misjudged you. Congratulations," she said. Her smile forced. Mom's eyes teared up. "I'm so sorry. Honey, we're proud now," Dad added. "I've got hospital contacts to expand this." Cody jumped in. "Let's invest together, family business style." Their sudden warmth reeked of opportunism, not love. I stepped forward, voice rising. "You only care now because of the money and what it means for your status? Where were you when I needed support?" Angela snapped back. "You're being selfish. Shutting us out." I shouted, "You shut me out first." The room echoed with our yells until I pointed to the door. "Get out." They left, stunned, and I blocked their numbers without hesitation. Angela tried to spin the narrative online. She posted on LinkedIn, praising my success to save face. But I commented, "My family called me a failure when I needed them most." The post went viral, branded a betrayal saga across Texas networks. Her clients, big ad firms, dropped her, citing trust issues in a field where image is everything. By March 2026, she was jobless. Mom and Dad faced their own fallout. The LinkedIn scandal tainted Mom's academic reputation. Students boycotted her classes, and the university let her go. Dad's high-end patients drifted away, wary of his family drama, slashing his income. Mounting medical bills from Mom's chronic condition piled on, and they missed mortgage payments. Their suburban home went into foreclosure after 3 months, forcing a move to a cramped rental. Cody's gamble on health tech stocks, inspired by my deal, tanked. Market volatility from new trade policies in 2025 spiked equipment costs, crashing his portfolio. He filed for bankruptcy, left with nothing but a desk job. Their collapse wasn't my doing, but their choices led them there. I poured my energy into Vital App, working with Kyle, Christina, Diego, and Mariah to scale our impact. I launched the Vital Health Scholarship, funding women in health tech who faced doubt like I did. Christina helped me screen applicants, her support a reminder of who mattered. Standing in my office, looking over Austin's skyline, I felt free. My family's rejection no longer defined me. Success wasn't just the deal, it was cutting toxic ties to live on my terms. Don't let family dictate your worth. Walk away from those who only value you when you shine, and build a life with those who see you clearly. Have you ever had to walk away from people who only showed up once you succeeded? I'd love to hear your story.
"You think you deserve that money? That trust fund belongs to Tiffany now. She's better than you'll ever be." The words from my stepmother's phone call pierced through me like daggers. I gripped my hotel room desk, trying to steady my racing heart. Janet's voice dripped with satisfaction as she delivered the news that she'd emptied the trust fund my mom had left me. "My name is Gabriella Mitchell, and at 28, I thought I'd finally escaped the toxicity of my family dynamics. I work in pharmaceutical sales, which keeps me traveling across the country most weeks. It should have been just another Tuesday in Minneapolis, preparing for tomorrow's client meeting. Instead, I was listening to Janet gloat about stealing my inheritance. "Thanks for letting me know," I replied calmly, my voice betraying none of the rage building inside me. I could almost see Janet's smug expression falter at my composed response. She'd expected tears, pleading, or anger. Anything but this quiet acceptance. That's all you have to say? Janet pressed, clearly disappointed by my reaction. Tiffany needs that money for her wedding and new house. You're just going to waste it on your meaningless sales career. I thought about my mom, who'd passed away when I was 16. She'd built a successful business from nothing and left me the trust fund to pursue my own dreams. Janet, who married my dad just 2 years after Mom died, had been trying to get her hands on that money ever since. Is there anything else? I asked, keeping my voice level. The silence on the other end was telling. What Janet didn't know was that 6 months ago, I'd had a conversation with Mr. Harrison, my mother's old lawyer. He'd warned me about some suspicious inquiries Janet had been making about the trust. Together, we'd put safeguards in place, legal protections that would make any unauthorized access not just impossible, but prosecutable. You've always been such a disappointment, Janet spat, trying one last time to provoke me. Your stepsister deserves this more than you ever did. I ended the call and looked out my hotel window at the Minneapolis skyline. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. Everything was documented. Every call, every attempt, every manipulation. Janet had finally overplayed her hand, and I was ready. Living with Janet was like walking on eggshells. After my mom's death from cancer when I was 16, my dad seemed desperate to rebuild our family. He married Janet just 2 years later, bringing along her daughter Tiffany, who was 13 at the time. The tension was immediate and suffocating. My mom had built her pharmaceutical consulting business from scratch, working tirelessly to ensure my future was secure. The trust fund she left me wasn't just money, it was her legacy, her way of protecting me even after she was gone. But Janet saw it differently. To her, it was an unfair advantage I had over Tiffany. Your mom wouldn't want you to be so selfish, she'd say, trying to guilt me into sharing the inheritance. We're all family now. But we weren't family, not in the way that mattered. While my dad buried himself in work to cope with his grief, Janet systematically worked to push me to the sidelines. Tiffany became the star of our household. Every achievement, no matter how small, was celebrated lavishly. Meanwhile, my academic scholarships and business school acceptance went practically unnoticed. Janet made sure my dad only saw what she wanted him to see. The real wake-up call came during my college graduation. I'd finished top of my class, landed a prestigious job, and done it all while working part-time. My dad couldn't make it because Tiffany had a minor cold. She needs her father right now, Janet had insisted. That's when I knew nothing would ever change unless I changed it myself. I moved out the next day and focused on building my career. The trust fund stayed untouched, not because I didn't need it, but because accessing it meant dealing with Janet's interference. Every time I visited home, she'd make snide comments about my privileged position, how Tiffany struggled without the same advantages. 6 months ago, when Mr. Harrison called to warn me about Janet's inquiries, everything clicked into place. She'd been playing a long game, waiting for the right moment to strike. But I wasn't that vulnerable 16-year-old anymore. I was my mother's daughter, and I'd learned from the best about protecting what was mine. The trust fund wasn't just about money. It represented everything my mom had worked for. Sitting in my hotel room that evening, I pulled out the small photo I always carried of her. She was smiling, confident, the kind of woman I'd always aspired to be. The trust fund was meant to be my safety net, my chance to take risks and build something of my own, just like she had. I dialed Mr. Harrison's number, my fingers steady despite the anger still coursing through me. He answered on the second ring, his voice familiar and reassuring. Janet finally made her move, I said, cutting straight to the point. She claims she's transferred everything to Tiffany. I was expecting this, he replied. I got an alert about attempted access to the account this morning. Don't worry, Gabriella. The additional security measures we put in place worked exactly as planned. Every attempt was logged and documented. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. So, nothing's actually been transferred? Not a penny, he confirmed. But we've got her dead to rights on attempted fraud. The documentation is bulletproof. Would you like me to proceed with the next steps? I thought about all the years of manipulation, the snide comments, the way Janet had slowly poisoned my relationship with my dad. She'd been so confident in her plan, so sure of her control over the situation, that she hadn't even considered I might be 2 steps ahead. "Yes," I said firmly. "It's time to end this. Send the evidence to the family lawyer and copy my dad on everything. I want him to see exactly what his wife tried to do." "Consider it done," Mr. Harrison said. "And Gabriella, your mother would be proud. She always said you were smarter than anyone gave you credit for." After hanging up, I opened my laptop and booked an earlier flight home. My client meeting would have to wait. I had a family matter to attend to, and this time, I would be the one in control. I landed in Boston the next morning, the autumn air crisp and biting. My dad's house, the one I grew up in, looked exactly the same, but something felt different. Maybe it was me. I'd called ahead to let him know I was coming, but I hadn't mentioned Janet's phone call. Some conversations needed to happen face to face. I found them all in the living room: Dad, Janet, and Tiffany. Janet's smug smile faltered when she saw me walk in, replaced by confusion at my calm demeanor. "Gabriella," my dad started, looking concerned. "I didn't expect you until later. Is everything okay?" "Actually, Dad, we need to talk." I pulled out my phone and the file Mr. Harrison had sent over. "Yesterday, Janet called to tell me she'd emptied my trust fund and given everything to Tiffany. I thought you should see exactly what happened." Janet's face went pale. "I was just trying to help Tiffany." "Don't." My voice was steel. "Every attempt you made to access the account was documented. Every call, every forged signature, every manipulation. It's all here." I handed my dad the file. His hands shook as he read through the papers, his expression darkening with each page. "Janet, what did you do?" His voice was barely a whisper. "She's lying." Tiffany jumped in, her face red. "She's always been jealous of me." I pulled out another document, the complete trust fund statement. The money's still there, safe and untouched. Janet's attempts to transfer it failed because I was warned about her plans months ago. I took precautions. "Precautions?" Janet spat. "You set me up." "No," I replied calmly. "I protected what was mine, just like my mom taught me to do." The silence in the room was deafening as my dad read through each document, every manipulative email Janet had sent to the bank, every forged signature attempt, every calculated move she'd made to steal my inheritance. It was all there in black and white. "I did this for our family," Janet protested, but her voice wavered. "Tiffany needed—" "Stop." My dad's voice cracked. "Just stop, Janet. These documents, you tried to forge my signature. You lied to the bank. You—" He looked up at me, his eyes filled with a pain I hadn't seen since my mom died. "Gabriella, I had no idea." "Of course you didn't," I said softly. "Janet made sure of that." Mr. Harrison had organized everything chronologically, showing years of Janet's attempts to undermine my relationship with my father, all while trying to get her hands on my trust fund. The latest documents showed her failed attempt to transfer the money, along with her subsequent angry calls to the bank. "This is ridiculous." Tiffany jumped up, her face red. "Mom was just trying to make things fair. Gabriella's always had everything handed to her." I turned to my stepsister, feeling a mix of pity and frustration. "Handed to me? I worked through college, built my career from scratch, and never touched that trust fund. Mom left it to me because she wanted me to have options, just like she did. But Janet couldn't stand that, could she?" Janet's composure finally cracked. "You ungrateful little—" "I've already filed charges," I cut her off. "The bank has all the evidence of attempted fraud. Mr. Harrison is handling everything." I turned to my dad. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but you needed to know the truth." The weight of 12 years of manipulation hung in the air. My dad looked at Janet like he was seeing her for the first time, and not in a good way. The next few moments changed everything. My dad stood up, his hands trembling as he held the documents. "Janet, I want you out of this house. Tonight. What? Janet's voice rose to a shrill pitch. You can't be serious. After everything I've done for this family? Done for this family? My dad's voice was quiet but firm. You tried to steal from my daughter. You forged my signature. You've been lying to me for years. Tiffany started crying, but these weren't her usual manipulative tears. She looked genuinely shocked, perhaps finally realizing the gravity of what her mother had tried to do. The police will want to talk to you, I said to Janet. Mr. Harrison has already filed the reports. The bank's fraud department is involved now. You planned this, Janet hissed. You knew I would try to access the trust fund. No, Janet, you planned this. I just made sure I was ready when you did. I turned to my dad. There's more. Mr. Harrison found evidence that she's been skimming money from your accounts too. Small amounts, building up over years. My dad sank back into his chair, looking devastated. I felt a pang of guilt for causing him pain, but he needed to know the truth. Get out, he repeated to Janet. Both of you. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce. As Janet and Tiffany gathered their things, throwing accusations and tears around in equal measure, I stood quietly by the window. The same window where I used to watch for my mom to come home from work. I could almost hear her voice. Always be prepared, sweetheart, and never let anyone take what's rightfully yours. In the weeks that followed, my dad and I had some long overdue conversations. We sat in the kitchen one evening, the same kitchen where my mom used to help me with my homework, and really talked for the first time in years. I failed you, he said, staring into his coffee cup. After your mom died, I was so focused on not being alone that I didn't see what was happening right in front of me. We both made mistakes, I admitted. I could have told you sooner about Janet's behavior, but I wanted proof first. I needed you to see it for yourself. The legal proceedings moved quickly. Janet faced charges of attempted fraud and financial exploitation. She tried to paint herself as a victim, claiming she was only trying to equalize things between me and Tiffany, but the evidence was overwhelming. The bank's documentation showed years of calculated attempts to access my trust fund. Tiffany reached out to me via email, claiming she hadn't known about her mother's plans. I wasn't sure I believed her, but I understood she was struggling with her own revelations about her mother's true nature. I'm sorry, she wrote. I always thought you had everything handed to you. Mom made it seem like you were the privileged one, but now I see she was just jealous of what your mom built for you. Mr. Harrison helped me set up my own business consulting firm, something I'd always dreamed of but had been too cautious to pursue. The trust fund my mom left me became the seed money for my new venture, just as she'd intended. Your mother would be proud, Mr. Harrison told me during one of our meetings. She always said you had her business sense and your father's heart. She knew you'd do great things when you were ready. Dad started coming by my office for lunch every week. Sometimes we talked about Mom, sharing memories that Janet had made it uncomfortable to discuss for so many years. Other times we talked about the future. He was finally starting to look like himself again, the dad I remembered from before Mom got sick. You know what your mom used to say about you? He asked one day. She said you were like a diamond. Pressure just made you stronger. Life took on a new rhythm. My consulting firm grew quickly, attracting clients who appreciated my direct approach and industry knowledge. I hired a small team, including Sarah, a brilliant analyst who reminded me of my mom. Same drive, same determination to prove herself. Janet's trial ended with a plea deal. She avoided jail time but had to pay significant restitution and was banned from working in any financial capacity. The last I heard, she'd moved to Arizona to live with her sister. Tiffany stayed in Boston working as a teacher's assistant. We kept minimal contact, mainly through occasional emails. Dad threw himself into rebuilding our relationship. He started sharing stories about my mom that he'd kept buried for years, how they met at a business conference, their early struggles to start her company, the late nights planning their future. Each story helped heal a little piece of what we'd lost. One evening, as we sorted through old photos in the attic, we found Mom's business journal. Inside was a letter addressed to me, dated just weeks before she passed. My dearest Gabriella, I'm leaving you more than money. I'm leaving you the freedom to choose your path. Don't let anyone dim your light or tell you what you deserve. You're stronger than you know, smarter than they give you credit for, and capable of anything you set your mind to. Trust yourself. I do. Love, Mom. Those words became my mantra as I built my business. I framed the letter and hung it in my office, a daily reminder of where I came from and where I was going. My dad retired from his job and started volunteering at a grief counseling center, helping other families navigate loss without losing themselves. Sometimes he'd consult for my firm, bringing years of experience and a perspective that complemented my approach perfectly. Looking back on those events 5 years later, I'm amazed at how much has changed. My consulting firm has expanded to 3 cities, helping pharmaceutical companies streamline their operations, just like Mom used to do. The trust fund she left me didn't just secure my future, it became the foundation for helping others build theirs. Dad retired completely last year, but he still comes by the office to mentor our younger employees. He says it keeps him connected to Mom's legacy. We have lunch every Wednesday, making up for all those years we lost to Janet's manipulation. The hardest lesson I learned wasn't about money or betrayal. It was about standing up for myself. Mom knew that one day I'd need to fight for what was mine, and she made sure I had the tools to do it. She taught me that true strength isn't about being tough. It's about being prepared and patient enough to wait for the right moment. Sometimes I visit the old house where I grew up. Dad still lives there, but it's different now. The walls have been repainted, the furniture rearranged, all traces of Janet's presence erased. In Mom's old office, which Dad turned into a library, I found her collection of business books last week. Inside one, she'd written notes about teaching me to run the company someday. I never got that chance with her, but I'm building something of my own now. Every decision I make in my business carries echoes of her wisdom. The trust fund she left me wasn't just about money. It was about believing in myself enough to stand my ground when others tried to take what was mine. Janet's attempt to steal my inheritance taught me something valuable. Sometimes people show you exactly who they are, and the best response is to be prepared. I'm grateful now for those difficult years because they shaped me into someone my mom would be proud of. Someone who doesn't just survive challenges but grows stronger from them. The family photo albums have been reorganized, keeping the memories that matter. On my desk at work sits my favorite picture, Mom and me at her office, both of us laughing about something long forgotten. It reminds me daily that while some people try to tear you down, others build you up in ways that last a lifetime. On the anniversary of my mother's passing, my father and I visited her grave together. We brought fresh flowers from her favorite garden, a tradition we had started that year. Standing there, I shared with him the letter I'd found in her journal. He read it silently, his hands trembling slightly as he held the worn paper. "She was always thinking ahead," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "Even when she was fighting for her own life, she was fighting for yours too." In that moment, I realized that every step I had taken to protect her legacy, every choice to stand firm, every decision to build something meaningful, was her final gift to me. "She would be so proud of you," Dad said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "And I couldn't be prouder to call you my daughter." Together, we stood in quiet reflection, knowing that while some wounds never fully heal, love and resilience have the power to transform even the deepest scars into strength.